We continue now at the top of Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph and Meseches Sotah. This is Sotah Daf 21a. On the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing the line in our Mishnah which says that if the Sotah has merit, so it can delay her punishment. And the Mishnah mentioned that it can even possibly delay her punishment up to 3 years. And the Gemara asked from a Brisa, because the Brisa has 3 opinions, how long the punishment can be delayed for the Sotah. And the most that we saw any Tana say, Rabbi Yishmael said, was 12 months, was 1 year. And Rabbi Yishmael brings a source, he brings a hint to this idea from Sefer Daniel. And we're now in the middle of discussing this pasuk in Sefer Daniel. The pasuk continues, Hein ta ve'archa l'shleivsach. The pasuk says again, as Rashi explains, Hein ta ve'archa l'shleivsach, va'oz tehei orach zman l'shlomech, meaning if you do what I'm advising you. Daniel was advising the Nebuchadnezzar, if you help the aniyim, if you help the poor, so then it's going to extend the amount of time that you'll be at peace, that you won't be punished, lo yavo alecha apuranas, that the punishment won't come upon you. V'chein asa Nebuchadnezzar. Now Rashi explains that's exactly what Nebuchadnezzar did. Haya mekabitz b'chol yom aniyah Yisrael. Every day he would gather the poor of Israel, shehevi bagola, vayutrichen mezonos. These are the poor of Israel that were brought in the exile, and they needed food. Mefarnasim, and he supported them. V'af Daniel kasheisiu eitzazu, and even Daniel, when he gave this advice to Nebuchadnezzar, lekach neskavin shiroas Yisrael bagola mechazon al psachim. That's what he wanted to happen, because he wanted these Jews to be helped out. And so what does it say over there in Daniel? It says uchsiv, and it says kol lemita al Nebuchadnezzar malka. Rashi explains, all of these punishments eventually did happen to Nebuchadnezzar. However, it also says, and it says, Liktsas Yarchin Trei Asar, and as Rashi explains, Liktsas Yarchin Trei Asar, Alma Tololo Hazuchos Yud Beis Chodesh. It took 12 months until he actually got punished, meaning the punishment was delayed for 12 months, and that's what Rabbi Yishmael sees in that pasuk. He sees in those psukim a hint to this idea that a merit can delay a punishment for 12 months. And in any case, that's the question over here in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says 3 years. And so the Gemara answers, Liolam Rabbi Yishmael. Really, the author of our Mishnah, the Tana of our Mishnah, actually is Rabbi Yishmael. Ve'eshkach kra de'amar v'tani d'chsiv. Rashi over here says, Liolam masnisin de'katani gimel shonim Rabbi Yishmael hi. Ve'eshkach kra de'amar v'tani shona b'haroch hazman. There's a pasuk which actually repeats this length of time. Kolomar mikra kasav sha'kadosh baruch hu marich zman ad gimel pa'amim. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu can extend this time by 3 times the amount. So you do 1 year times 3. Hilka chavalahu gimel shanim. Therefore it comes out to 3 years. And this is the pasuk the Gemara now quotes from Amos Tichsiv, as it's written in the pasuk in Amos, Ko Amar Hashem, so says Hashem al shlosha pishei Edom, on the 3 sins of Edom. Umayaf apishein rai l'davar zeicher l'davar. And the Gemara says, now what does it mean when he said that even though Sefer Daniel is not a proof, but it's a hint to this idea? The reason why it's only a hint is Dil Mashani Ovdei Kochavim. Maybe it's different by Ovdei Kochavim, by idol worshippers, like by Nebuchadnezzar. Delo mafkid dina alayhu. Rashi over here says, Delo mafkid dina alayhu ein mimaharin min hashamayim lifkod avonosam aleim ba'olam hazeh. Means to say that lo mafkid dina alayhu means that we're not so quick. Shamayim is not so quick to punish them in this world because they're going to be punished in the next world. So maybe it's not such a proof. Avol mi Yisrael mimaharin li para ba'olam hazeh. Maybe when it comes to Klal Yisrael, it's actually earlier. The punishments come faster in olam hazeh. Umedaktik in achareim, and Bezin Shalmal is more medaktik. When it comes to Klal Yisrael, that's why he considered it the source from Sefer Daniel is only a hint to this idea, but not a proof. And we will take a look at the full pasuk in Amos. The pasuk says, Ko Amar Hashem al shlosha pishei Edom. So says Hashem on 3 of the sins of Edom, V'al arba lo ashivenu. But on the 4th, then I'm not going to reverse it. So that's where we see this idea that up to 3 times the amount, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can delay a punishment. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, V'yesh zechus tola gimel shanim v'chulu. There are some merits if the Sotah has. It can delay her punishment for 3 years. And the Gemara says, Zechus Demai, what merits are we talking about? Ilema Zechus Torah. If you say we're talking about the merit of learning Torah, Ha'enu Mitzuva V'yosahi. So in that situation, she's not even commanded to learn Torah. And so the Gemara says, Ella rather Zechus de Mitzvah. We're talking about the merits that she has for doing mitzvahs. But the Gemara says, Zechus de Mitzvah mi migna kuli hai. Does the merit that she has for doing mitzvahs, does that protect to such an extent? Vatanya, but we learned in a brayso as follows. As Zu Darash Rabbi Menachem Bar Yossi, the following drasha Rabbi Menachem Bar Yossi made, the pasuk says in Mishlei, Ki ner mitzvah v'torah, or it says that mitzvah is like a candle, and Torah is like the light. Tola hakasav es ha-mitzvah b'ner ves ha-Torah b'or. The Torah says, the Torah compares mitzvah to a candle, and Torah to the light. As ha-mitzvah b'ner, what's the comparison? When we compare mitzvah to a ner, when we say that mitzvah is like a candle, lomar loch, it's to tell you, ma ner eina megina el lefisha, just like a candle, it only protects momentarily. So af mitzvah eina megina el lefisha, so to a mitzvah, it only protects momentarily. V'yas ha-Torah ba'or, and the Torah is compared to light, lomar loch, to tell you, ma'or megin la'olam, just like light protects forever. Af Torah megina li'olam, so to Torah protects forever. V'yomer, and the pasuk also says in Mishlei, B'salecha tancha osach, when you walk, it will lead you. And the Brisa darshans the pasuk, B'salecha tancha osach ze olam hazeh. When it says when you walk, it will lead you, that refers to olam hazeh. B'shach b'cha tishmor alecha, the pasuk also says when you lie down, it'll watch over you. Zumisa, this refers to death. V'akitzosa hi tesichecha, and then it says when you awaken, it will converse with you. Liyasad lavo, that's a reference to the future. And the Brisa explains, the mashal is to a person who's walking in the darkness of the night, and he's afraid of the thorns and the holes in the ground and the thistles, and from the wild animals and from the bandits. And also he doesn't know which way he's going. So nizdamna lo avuka shalor. So let's say he gets a torch with a flame. So then nitzol min hakotzim min apchasim min abarkonim. That will save him from the thorns and from the holes in the ground and from the thistles. V'adayin misyar mechayaro min alistin. But he's still going to be afraid of the wild animals and of the bandits. Ve'eno yodea be'ezeh derech mahalach. And he still doesn't know which way to go. Now, when the dawn comes, when the sun rises, so then nitzol mechayaro umin alistim. So then he's going to be saved. The light of dawn will save him from the wild animals and from the bandits. But he still doesn't know which way he's going. And when he reaches the Parshas Derachim, when he reaches the road, then he's saved from everything. The Gemara later will address what exactly is the Parshas Derachim. And the Brisa continues, Davar Acher, another explanation, Aveira mechabe mitzvah, an Aveira can extinguish a mitzvah, Ve'en Aveira mechabe Torah, but an Aveira is not able to extinguish Torah. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Mayim ravim lo yuchlu lechabos es ha'ava, a great amount of water is not able to extinguish the love, and the love over here, the ava, is a reference to Torah. And in any case, the point of bringing this Brisa is it's clear from this Brisa that a mitzvah doesn't afford such great protection, it affords a momentary kind of protection. So what zechus does this sotah have, which extends or delays her punishment for 3 years? And so the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Yosef says, mitzvah be'idna da'asik ba migna umatzla. When it comes to a mitzvah, what we mean to say is as follows. When the person is in the middle of doing the mitzvah, it protects them, and it also saves them from the Yetzer Hara. Be'idna da'lo asik ba, but at a time that they're not doing the mitzvah, meaning after that, so agune migna, so it actually still can protect. And that's why it protects the sotah, but atzule lo matzla, but it's not able to save a person from the Yetzer Hara. But Torah, but when it comes to Torah, bein be'idna da'asik ba, whether we're talking about the time when you're learning Torah, uvein be'idna da'lo asik ba, or even at times when you're not learning Torah, migna umatzla is able to protect, and it's also able to save the person. But the Gemara continues, Ma'askif lo Rabba. So Rabba asked the following question on this. Elameata, according to that, Doeg v'Achitofel milo aski b'Torah. Didn't Doeg and Achitofel, didn't they learn Torah? Amaylo hegino alayu, so why didn't it protect them? And so rather Rava says, he revises it as follows. Torah be'idna da'asik ba, Torah at the time that you're learning it, migna umitzla, it protects and it saves. Be'idna da'lo asik ba, but at the time that you're not learning it, agune migna does protect, but atzule lo mitzla, but it doesn't save a person from the Yetzer Hara. But mitzvah, when it comes to a mitzvah, bein be'idna da'asik ba, whether it's the time you're actually doing the mitzvah, bein be'idna da'lo asik ba, or whether we're talking about the time when you're not doing the mitzvah, agune migna, so it's able to protect, but atzule lo mitzla, but it's not able to save the person from the Yetzer Hara, from future sins. And Rashi explains, Zechus demai, what merit are we talking about? Megina kol kach, what merit is able to protect so much? Zechus de Torah shahaisa sekes b'Torah, it's the zechus. If you're going to say it's the zechus that she's learning Torah, halo mifkeda, so that she's not commanded in dechsiv limartem osam es b'neichem, v'lo es b'nosechem, it says your sons and not your daughters. V'keim adena mitzuva, ein sechara gadol k'mitzuva v'yosa, and since she's not commanded, so we understand that the reward is not so great if somebody is, it's not as great as somebody who actually is commanded and does it. The reward is greater if somebody is commanded. So then again, we quoted the pasuk in Mishlei, it says that it's going to converse with you. What that means to say is it's going to bring on your behalf, it's going to bring merits on your behalf. Pechasim is gumos. Again, pechasim refers to the holes in the ground. Nizdamna lo avuka shalor. So if the person gets a torch with a fire, kach zochel lekayim mitzvah. The comparison over here is that the torch is compared to a mitzvah. Nitzol mi mixus paradios. It protects from some punishment. That's the idea of the brisa. V'adayin misyore mechayerom in a listen, but the person is still afraid from the wild animals and from the bandits. Shadarkon leilech balayla. They're around at night. Pen yifko bo. Maybe he'll meet up with them. Techsiv tashas choshech v'yiloyla bo sirmas kol chayso yor. It says like that in Tehillim. Higia amud hashachar. Now when dawn comes, v'af kan zochel Torah nitzol min hachetu min hayisurin. That's the same idea over here. When the amud hashachar comes, that's like the zechus of Torah that protects from sin and it protects from suffering. That's the protection that we're talking about of the chayera and the listim. But still he fears maybe the Yetzer Hara will come, and that's going to cause him to get punishment, and that's the last level, Higil Parshas Derachim. When he gets to the Parshas Derachim, V'sham Hikir Estarko, then he knows which way to go. V'afkan Higil Yom Hamisa. The idea over here is when he reaches the day of death, this the Gemara will explain later on, V'lo Pirish Min HaTorah, and he hasn't separated from Torah ad Yom Moso, until the day of his death, Nitzol Mikulam. That's when he's totally saved. V'achim Mefarsh Lo Lekam. This is all going to be explained later on. And again, so you see the levels, the mitzvah is the lower level, Torah is the higher level of protection. And then the Gemara said further, Aveira mechabe schar mitzvah. Aveira is able to extinguish the reward from a mitzvah for a mitzvah. Vein Aveira mechabe schar misha asik b'Torah kodem lechein. But the Aveira is not able to extinguish the reward from somebody who learned Torah beforehand. Alma mitzvah lo migna kulihai. The point to bring all of this is that we see that a mitzvah doesn't afford such protection. Lichbos eso ava, again to extinguish the ava zu Torah, that refers to Torah. The ava refers to Torah. Havyani lebeis hayayin v'diglo layahava. Amar Rav Yosef. So then Rav Yosef answered, Liolam Megina al Yisurin Harbe. Really, actually, a mitzvah does protect a lot from suffering. Umay Eina Megina de Amar Tanakama min hachet shelo yiskefenu Yetzer Hara kamar. When we said that it doesn't protect, we're really referring to saving a person from the Yetzer Hara. That's what we meant to say. Mitzvah be'idna da'asuk, mitzvah at the time that you're doing the mitzvah. V'hainu lefisha, that's momentarily. Damar Migna min Yisurin, so it protects again from suffering. Umatzla mi Yetzer Hara, and it also saves it from the Yetzer Hara. Shelo yachshilenu lechet, that the Yetzer Hara shouldn't cause the person to stumble and sin. But be'idna de lo asukba, but when he's not actually doing it, mishen nigmar mitzvah, meaning when the mitzvah is completed, ve'eno asukba, he's not dealing in the mitzvah. Agune migna min aparanus atzule lo mitzvah. So then it's going to protect from punishment, but it won't save him from the Yetzer Hara. With the katani bebraisa avera mechabe mitzvah, when it says in the braisa that the avera extinguishes the mitzvah, lavmi lahagin min hayisurin kamar, doesn't mean to say in terms of protection from yisurin, that's still there. Ela militol schar loss. It rather just means in terms of the schar in the future. That's what it's referring to. Amaylo Tagan Alem, but then the Gemara asked, aren't there others who they were learning Torah? Why didn't that protect them? Yetzer Hara, why didn't protect them from the Yetzer Hara? Shachtim, which caused them to sin. V'asam Risham Gemurim, made them into Risham Gemurim. Kolomar Amaylo Tatzileu, Minho Averos, why didn't it save them from the Averos? And then the Gemara ultimately answered that even though Torah does protect at the time the person is not learning the Torah, but it does not necessarily save the person from the Yetzer Hara at a time when the person is not learning. And the Gemara continues, Ravina Amar Ravina says, Liolam Zechus Torah. Really the Zechus we're talking about by the Sotah is the Zechus of Torah. That's what protects her. With the Ka'amrit Eina Mitzuva V'yos, and that which you said, that she's not commanded, so how does she get such a reward? The Gemara explains, Nehid de Pekude Lo Mifkada, granted that she's not commanded in this mitzvah. However, Ba'agra de but as a reward for the fact that they cause, that a woman or a mother causes her sons to learn psukim and to learn Mishnah, and also they wait for their husbands to come back from the Beis Medrash, so Milo Palgan Ba'adayu, so don't they divide some of the reward in that regard, and that's how she is rewarded for this chus of Torah. And the Gemara continues, my Parshas Derachim, what did we mean above when we said Parshas Derachim? And Rashi explains, my Parshas Derachim, Ma'u Medam Lehigia Parshas Derachim. We said above that when the person reaches the road, so then he knows which way to go. What is that? What are we comparing to that? What's that a mashal for? To avuka hainu mitzvah, because we said that the avuka, the torch, that's being compared to mitzvah, and amar hashachar hainu Torah, the dawn, is being compared to the Torah. Ala parshas derachim mai, but what exactly is the parshas derachim? And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Chisda says, Zet Talmud Chacham v'Yom HaMisa. This refers to a Talmud Chacham on the day of his death. That's what Rashi referred to above. Rashi here says, v'Yom HaMisa, v'u Talmud Chacham b'Yom Moso, v'Yada shelo pirish lifrok me'olav ol Torah. We're talking about a Talmud Chacham, and on the day of his death, he knows he never separated from learning Torah. That's the reference, that's the mashal of Parshas Derachim. That's when the Talmud Chacham knows which way he's going. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says that Talmud Chacham v'yiras chet. This refers to a Talmud Chacham who has yiras chet, fear of sin. As Rashi says, v'yiras chet zachal yiras chet achar shezachal Torah. If a Talmud Chacham merits yiras chet after he's also merited Torah, nitzal mikulim, then he's totally protected. Torah malamdasa divrei mitzvah v'divrei iser, because the Torah teaches mitzvah and iser. Umimashu tzarach lifrosh, what he has to separate from. V'yiras chet mono milirdof acharei yitzran. Yiras chet, that's what stops him, that's what protects him from running after his yetzer hara. And the Gemara continues with another answer. Mar Zutra says, Zet Talmud Chacham, the Salkal Ishmaitza Aliba de Hilchasa. This refers to a Talmud Chacham who, when he teaches his sugi, his halacha, he teaches according to the proper halacha. Rashi says, the Salkal Ishmaitza Aliba de Hilchasa Vachi Kamar Olam Rashachar Nitzal Min Achaya. Means to say again, when Aman HaShachar comes, he's saved from the animals. Zochel Torah Nitzal Mi Yetzer Hara Min Achet. It means that if he has Torah, so then he's protected from the Yetzer Hara and from sin. V'adayin Eno Yodei Beizu Derech Mahalech, but he still doesn't know which way to go. Im Yizke Shisayu Min HaShamayim Leskabel Devara Ben Chaverev. If he merits that Shamayim helps, that now his words are accepted by his Chaverim. Lahoros Ka'alacha, that he teaches according to the Halacha Chamishpat, the proper way. So he gil the Parshas Derachim. That means he reached the Parshas Derachim. Kolomar Zochel Akach, meaning if he reached that, so nitzal mikulam, then he's completely protected. And the Gemara continues, Davar Acher, another explanation, Aveira mechabe mitzvah, vein Aveira mechabe Torah. We said above, an Aveira can extinguish a mitzvah, but an Aveira cannot extinguish the Torah. Amar Rav Yosef said, Dorshi Rabbi Menachem bar Yossi l'haikra ki Sinai. Rabbi Menachem bar Yossi, he darshan this pasuk as it was given on Har Sinai. Vilmole darshu adoeg v'achitofel hachi, and had Doeg and Achitofel, had they darshan the pasuk like this, lo rodfu basar David, they wouldn't have chased after David. Techsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, Leimor lakim azavo, they said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had abandoned David, and that's why they thought they could pursue him. My derosh, and what is the drasha we're referring to? V'lo yeroa b'cho ervas davar. They thought that it says again that a person should not deal with erva, and David had an incident with Bathsheba, and therefore they thought that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had abandoned David, and they could pursue David. But that wasn't true. They didn't understand the drasha properly. V'heinein on Yodin, because they didn't know she'aveira mechabe mitzvah, that an aveira can extinguish a mitzvah. So if there's an aveira like Arayas, that can extinguish a mitzvah. However, ve'ein aveira mechabe Torah, but an aveira cannot extinguish Torah, and David HaMelech had Torah, and therefore he was protected. The aveira could not extinguish the protection that he had from Torah, and that's the mistake they made in pursuing him. And the Gemara continues, My boz yavozu lo. What does the pasuk mean when it finishes and it says boz yavozu lo? This is the continuation of the pasuk in Shir Hashirim. The full pasuk again, the pasuk began, Mayim rabim lo yuchlu lechabos esoava. Talks about the fact that an abundance of water is not able to extinguish the love. And then the pasuk at the end says, Im yitei nishes kol hon beiso bi'ava boz yavozu lo. It says if a person's going to give away all the wealth of his household for the ava, for the love, so boz yavozu lo, he would utterly be condemned. And the Gemara explains the pasuk as follows: Amar Ula says, Lo k'Shimon achi Azariah v'lo k'Rabbi Yochanan devei Nasiya. We're not talking about a situation like Shimon, the brother of Azariah. That's talking about a situation where Shimon was learning and he was supported by his brother Azariah, or Rabbi Yochanan who was supported by the house of the Nasi to learn Torah. Ela k'Hillel v'Shevna. Rather, what we're referring to is a situation like Hillel and Shevna. The Chiyasar Rav Dimi Amar, because when Rav Dimi came, he said, Hillel v'Shevna achi havid. That Hillel and Shevna, they were brothers. Hillel asak b'Torah. Hillel learned Torah. The point is, he learned Torah. He wasn't supported. He learned Torah in poverty. And Shevna avid iska, and Shevna did business. He made money. L'sof Amar le, and then at the end, Shevna said to Hillel, Ta naro v'liflo, come, I'll give you half of my money, and then I'll split the reward for the learning of the Torah. And that's what the pasuk is referring to when it says Yotzta Baskol v'Amra. Then a Baskol came out and said that's not possible. Im yitei nishes kol hon beiso v'gomer. If a person is going to give all the wealth of his household, but again, boz yavozu lo, it's not possible after the fact. When the person learned Torah in poverty, it's not possible after the fact to buy that reward. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis.